Hello, hello. Hey, man. What up? Not much. What's up with you? Okay, just gonna wait and make sure all of this is running smoothly. Can you hear that? I think someone's running a leaf blower outside. Hello. The Illusionist was the movie. Thanks for the suggestion. Oh, the animated film. Yeah, The Illusionist, right. Omar here again. Hello, welcome. I always watch when the episodes are uploaded. This is my first stream live. Hey, welcome, Josh Barnes. Welcome. Glad you could join us. Okay, it looks like we're going. Is video and audio okay? I guess we're okay. Alright, so I guess we'll get started. If somebody could tell me if, video and audio is okay, that would, help me relax a little bit. Whoa. Movies I watched on Easter weekend. The Human Centipede 2, The Raid 2. Interesting weekend. Sounds like it. Oh, we're good? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Oh, have you seen With Nail and I recently watched it and fell in love with it. That is a movie to fall in love with. It's got a very specific voice to it in the writing and the acting and the directing. There's no other filmmaker like Bruce Robinson. I'm a big fan of his work. And the way he writes scripts, the way he tells stories. Yeah, I love With Nail and I. I've seen that one a few times. I actually love even more his second film, How to Get Ahead in Advertising. Also stars Richard E. Grant in, I think, one of the best comic performances ever put on screen. How to Get Ahead in Advertising is a little difficult to get a hold of, but it's worth tracking down. It's a really good movie. Really funny. My English teachers throughout high school all loved With Nail and I. I want to see that. Did you see the 10-minute short Werner Herzog film Fanatics, which I recommended last night? I did watch that. Yeah, you shared a link to that. I did watch it. It was called Precautions Against Fanatics, I think. It was strange. I think I did some reading about it. I think Herzog described it as an elaborate on-camera practical joke. I didn't. It was surprising because you think it's an actual documentary about racehorse tracks, and then it turns out it's all fake. That these guys are just kind of. Whoa, it's really dark. I might try to open curtains a little bit more. Sorry. There you go. Let you see the blemish on my forehead really clearly. Hope you all appreciate that. I should just turn the camera off for this one. But yeah, when it turns out, yeah, the whole thing's fake and it's just actors that he's planted or something. There's that guy that keeps coming on telling them to get the hell out of there. I wasn't expecting that, but it was funny. That must have been early Herzog too. Like, I think it was late 60s, wasn't it? Yeah, I don't think he was even making features at that point. So it's interesting going back that far. I'm about to watch Brian Yuzna's. Not sure how to say the last name. Brian Yuzna, I think. He was a producer on Reanimator, which is a pretty fun little horror movie from the 80s. Have I seen Society? I have not seen Society. That's one I really want to see. Yeah, I think that's the first one Did he direct any others after that? I can't remember, but I think he was a producer and then he became a director with Society. It's one I've heard. It's one I've heard about a couple times. That's been recommended to me. I want to see it, but I haven't gotten a chance yet. A Door with Nail and I, always been one of my favorites. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. The characters that are created in that movie are so specific and so perfectly realized. I mean, every line of dialogue, every choice the actors make, the casting in that movie is amazing, and the writing is just pitch perfect, played to perfection. It doesn't really have a plot, it doesn't really have a point, it kind of just wanders and meanders, but if you can get into that and just enjoy being with those characters, then it's a really terrific movie and a really enjoyable one to watch. There's so much quotable dialogue in it. It is really funny. Easy to get How to Get Ahead in Advertising in the UK on a double Blu-ray with Nail and I. Well, then I am very jealous of the UK because How to Get Ahead in Advertising is no longer available on DVD, Blu-ray. It's so hard to find in the US. I've been waiting for Criterion to get the rights back to it and put it out on Blu-ray. They've been getting a few that have gone out of print, like Straw Dogs. I never thought that would come back to the collection, but they just announced like last month, I think, that they're re-releasing it and they're doing a new Blu-ray edition. And they got Time Bandits back before that. I never thought Time Bandits would come back. And Time Bandits is the same company. Handmade Films. That's a company that George Harrison started in the late 70s to produce Monty Python's second movie, Life of Brian. Sorry, I'm spitting everywhere. Sorry. But George Harrison of the Beatles, obviously, he started this film company, Handmade Films, in 1979 thereabouts, just to produce Life of Brian, just to get Monty Python the money to do Life of Brian, and then after that, he just kind of decided, well, why not try and get some other movies made? And so his company, all throughout the 80s, got a lot of really interesting British films made, like Mona Lisa, what was the other Bob Hoskins one? The Long Good Friday, and With Nail and I, and How to Get Ahead in Advertising. A lot of really interesting, esoteric movies that couldn't get made anywhere else at that time in the British film industry. It was a really cool company, unfortunately very short-lived. But yeah, With Nail and I and How to Get Ahead in Advertising were two of their last productions. And since Criterion recently got the rights back to Time Bandits and put that back out on Blu-ray, I've been hoping that they're going to get With Nail and I and How to Get Ahead in Advertising back in the collection. I really hope, because I love those movies so much, and I think Bruce Robinson is such an underrated filmmaker. I've been waiting for him to make another movie. His last one was The Rum Diary in 2011, which I also thought was really underrated. Like With Nail and I, doesn't really have a plot, doesn't really have a point. It's just about really specific characters in really specific situations. If you can appreciate just the performances and the dialogue and I guess the really laid-back, meandering tone of it, it's really fun. Like, I think Giovanni Ribisi is great in that one. And, what's his name? Richard Jenkins. It's got a lot of really great character performances in it. I'd recommend checking out The Rum Diary if you're a fan of With Nail and I and that kind of style of character-driven film. Had no idea it was fake. Oh, yeah, the Herzog one. Yeah, I did some reading about it, that, the whole thing was staged. It's really tough to figure out. You have no idea what's going on when you're watching it. Have you seen that Tampopo is coming to Criterion? I have, and I am very interested to see it on Blu-ray, because the DVD I saw it with originally was not very good quality. I think it was just kind of some quickie Australian release from a few years back. So yeah, I'd be very interested to see it on Blu-ray, because I was doing some reading, like some interviews with the director, Juzo Itami, and he was talking about the way the film was shot and how it was done in a specific way. And you don't really get that from watching a DVD, just because the picture quality isn't that good. So I'd be interested to watch it on Blu-ray to see the full impact of the image, because he shot the whole thing kind of dark, I think, and then at the very end, when the main character, I'm kind of spoiling it here for anyone who's never seen it, so spoiler warning, but at the very end when the main character, she finally makes that perfect bowl of ramen, the exposure of the film is slowly raised, so the movie kind of goes from being a little dark and drab to suddenly being very bright and cheerful with all this light and all of this color. And that was designed very specifically to give that moment a real visual impact. You don't really get it on a DVD. You kind of need something like a Blu-ray with some better picture quality. I have seen Society, worth a watch. I'll have to check it out. I really want to. I love like Stuart Gordon stuff from the 80s, like From Beyond and Reanimator. I think those are really good like cult horror movies. Still really fun. A lot of really cool makeup effects in them. And Society looks like it's kind of in the same vein. So it'd probably be one I would like. Is it a good film? Consider purchasing the Blu-ray. Not sure. Sorry, Jesse V. I'm not sure which film you're referring to. Is it a good film? Maybe With Nail and I? I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the chat, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess you'll have to be specific in what you're referring to. Sorry about that. Did you watch the film Last Life in the Universe? It was recommended by my friend from Japan. No, I've not heard of that. Last Life in the Universe. That's one I'll write down. Obligatory Modern Ocean mentioned. Yes, there is. There's been an update with the Modern Ocean. I don't know if everyone saw that. The news is very sad. Very disappointing. I'll get to that in a second. Oh, man. I wish I could come up here with better news about the Modern Ocean. I was very disappointed when I read this. Last Life in the Universe. Okay. Alright, let me just scroll ahead in the chat a little bit. Okay, yeah, I shared this. Somebody shared this with me on my on Facebook, and I shared it on my Facebook page. But there's finally been some news on The Modern Ocean, Shane Carruth's new movie. And I don't know if everyone saw this, but yeah. They interviewed one of the actors, Tom Holland, I think his name was, the new Spider-Man. I'm not entirely sure on his name. It's Todd, or maybe that's the director. I think it's Tom Holland. He was doing press for his new movie, The Lost City of Z, and he was asked fairly recently about The Modern Ocean because he was cast in it all those months ago, and he was asked, is that still happening? He said he's no longer involved, and from the way he was talking about it, it sounds like it's been canceled. And that was very heartbreaking to read. It wasn't like a definitive. He didn't just come right out and say, okay, it's no longer happening. Like, I know for sure it's done. But the way he was talking, it kind of sounded like he wasn't really sure what happened with it, but he's no longer involved. And it didn't sound good. It didn't sound hopeful. It didn't sound like he expected it to come out anytime soon. So I was very, very heartbroken to read that. Sounds like we're going to have to wait even longer for a new Shane Carruth movie, sadly. He did say it was the best script he had ever read, though, for The Modern Ocean. So let's hope it does happen eventually. I'd hate for this to become another a topiary. Just gotta wait for the script to get leaked, and then we can imagine what an amazing movie it might have been. I really hope that doesn't happen. I really hope this one gets made. I think I said this a couple weeks ago too. Like, Shane Carruth, he should try out Amazon or Netflix or one of these other places. I don't know. I feel like he could have a chance on a platform like that. But I don't know. From what I've read, Carruth is really what's the word? He's very determined in the way he wants to make movies, the way he wants them distributed. He's, I guess you could say a control freak, although that sounds like a negative. But it seems he has very specific demands for how he makes a movie, how he gets it out to people. I know Primer had a lot of difficulty finding distribution because he just didn't like, what any of the companies that were going to buy the film, what they were going to do with it. So, You know, he's a guy that just made this little $7,000 movie. You'd think anybody like that would just be like, you want to distribute my movie? Absolutely, take it, go ahead, do whatever you want with it. But he was really just like adamant that like, no, you're not going to do this with it. I'm going to retain control over the film. I'm going to get control over the advertising and the poster and all of this. And so it took him forever to find a distributor who was willing to give in to the demands of this first-time nobody filmmaker. And then Upstream Color, yeah, he couldn't find anybody that was willing to distribute the film the way he wanted, so he just distributed it himself. He just put it out there himself. So I'm sure, yeah, the bureaucracy and the structure of the American film industry is one that is very frustrating for him, because he seems to be like an absolute no compromise kind of filmmaker. So I guess I can understand why it's so difficult for him to get stuff made. But I don't know, maybe because I know he's avoided crowdfunding for that reason. He doesn't want to do Kickstarter or anything like that. Just for reasons connected to that, of just what kind of control he wants over the movie and stuff like that. And so I don't know exactly how distribution with a VOD platform works or a streaming platform, but yeah, maybe it's just, again, something that just doesn't quite sit right with him, isn't quite exactly what he wants. I don't know, maybe I always feel like filmmaking, the way it works, it's about learning to compromise. That's part of the art of filmmaking, is learning the art of compromise. So I don't know, but maybe we need filmmakers out there like Shane Carruth that aren't accepting any compromise. Everything they do is just something so entirely them that nobody else could have done it. Maybe we just have to accept the fact that directors like that are only going to make a movie a decade if we're lucky. It's just a bummer waiting for them, you know? I've been waiting so long for the modern ocean. Alright, but anyway, chat's filling up with more stuff. Oh my god. Alright, let's see what we got here. I should talk about the only film I'm going to talk about this week too, before I get too much into this stuff. Because I did watch Martin Scorsese's new movie, Silence. I was going to watch a second film. I usually like to talk about 2 films every week. I didn't get a chance to watch the second one. I was going to watch Mike Birbiglia's new movie, Don't Think Twice, which I've heard a lot of really good stuff about. And I've been wanting to see, but I didn't get a chance to watch it before today. I did watch Silence, though. And Mike Birbiglia, kind of a tricky last name there. But for anyone who doesn't know about him, he's a really talented comedian and writer, director, actor. This is his second movie, Don't Think Twice. His first one was called Sleepwalk with Me, which I think is very autobiographical. It's about this bizarre sleepwalking episode he experienced in his personal life that he turned into a stand-up routine and then later turned into a feature film. And that seems to be kind of the way he works. I've only seen one of his stand-up shows, and you can't even really describe it as a stand-up show. It's more like a one-man performance piece. There's a very carefully constructed linear narrative to it. It's more like he's just telling an extended story rather than doing like bits and a routine. But it was very good. The one I saw was called My Girlfriend's Boyfriend, and it was really funny and really touching too. I've never really seen, I guess, what you could call a stand-up special like that before, and he's got a couple others. He just did one for Netflix called Thank God for Jokes that I haven't seen yet, but I want to watch more of his stuff. And I haven't seen either of his films yet, but I'm very interested in watching more of his work. He's a really talented guy. So I was disappointed I didn't get a chance to watch that, but I figured I'd give it a mention because it's a very small little film that it doesn't seem too many people have heard of. It's one that I've been hearing about playing at festivals that's been doing really well. Everyone who sees it seems to love it, so I really want to check it out. I also really want to see his first movie too, Sleepwalk with Me. But yeah, I figured I'd mention that one at least, and talk about Scorsese's Silence in a second. I'm just checking other stuff in the chat. Thoughts on Antonioni? I adore each of the films I have seen of his so far. The Passenger instantly skyrocketed into my top 5. I don't know. Antonioni's been one. God, what is wrong with the chat? I can't scroll through it. Sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. There we go. Antonioni, though, I'm not sure. He's an interesting filmmaker and certainly an important filmmaker. And he's done a few movies that I really love, like Blow Up. That was like his big breakout film. That's one I've always really liked. But other stuff, I don't know. I just haven't really found a way to get into it. Like La Ventura, Passenger. That's the one with Jack Nicholson, right? I saw that one. I don't know. There's something there that maybe I'm just not quite getting, or that I'm not quite able to connect to. I've tried to watch La Ventura a couple times, and every time I've just been so bored by it. I don't know if it's because there's something I'm missing in it, or if it's just not really my kind of movie. I don't know. But he's one I'm always reading about. He was a tremendously influential filmmaker, and I do really love Blow Up, so I don't know. He's not one I've seen a lot of his stuff, so I'm not too familiar with him. So I don't know. At this point, yeah, I'm kind of back and forth on him. Not quite sure yet. Wish I could say more. I always hate when I don't have like a really in-depth thing to say about a particular film or a particular filmmaker. It feels like I'm wasting everybody's time. But yeah, I'm sorry. That's I don't really have too much to say about Antonioni, just because it's been so long since I've seen his movies, and yeah, I'm not especially familiar with his work as a filmmaker. God, what is wrong with the chat? Why can't I scroll? Do certain comments get deleted once they move up a certain ways? Because I can't seem to scroll up to see this other stuff that I missed. All right. Yeah, I can't get it to move, so sorry. I'm just going to have to... Yeah, I'll just look at what else is on here. You mentioned Straw Dogs. What are your thoughts on it? I'm really split on it. However, I do like The Wild Bunch, which was also directed by Peckinpah. Peckinpah, yeah, I agree. I'm kind of split on his work as a whole. I think the Wild Bunch is a great movie. Yeah, still just spectacularly bloody even to this day. And yeah, it's I think one of the best classic westerns I've ever seen. Although it was really subversive in its day, of really subverting a lot of Western conventions. And yeah, it's pretty nihilistic too. But I enjoy that about it. But yeah, other Peckinpah stuff, you really sense that he was kind of a misogynist, and that's a difficult thing for me to get over when I watch his work, especially with Straw Dogs. For me, when I watch it, I sense a lot of misogyny in that movie, in the way the Susan George character is handled, and her character arc, and yeah, the controversial rape scene. Yeah, I don't know. It's a nasty little film, but there are parts of it that are effective, I have to admit. And Dustin Hoffman's performance is very memorable. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm kind of split on it. It's an interesting film that says some interesting things, but leaves a bitter taste in my mouth when I watch it. You know, I don't know. There's some stuff in there that I just can't quite accept. Just seem, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the word is. Just don't sit well with me. But maybe that's the point, you know? It's meant to be a confrontational movie. So maybe that's part of the point. Yeah, I keep losing comments. I can't scroll up. Sorry, yeah. I guess I'm just gonna have to move on. That sucks. Wonder why I can't scroll up past a certain point. 4K on how to get ahead in advertising? Now I'm really jealous. I need to get a region-free Blu-ray player. There's so many like UK releases and stuff that I'd love to get. How do I find movies that can't be found on any legal format? Should I download it? If it's something like On the Silver Globe or World on a Wire. I'm not sure where you live, but World on a Wire has been released on Blu-ray in the US by the Criterion Collection. And it's also, I think it's streaming on Filmstruck. But I don't know where you live and what you have access to. But, yeah, for me, I guess if I really can't find something, or if it's like it's only available on DVD and the DVD costs like $200, then that's when I'll check and see if maybe someone's put it up on YouTube. If not, that's kind of where I end it. If somebody's put it up on YouTube, I'm willing to watch it on YouTube, but I'm still not willing to like torrent stuff. I'm still not at that point. I try to draw the line there. Again, no judgment to anybody who does torrent stuff. I understand, why people pirate movies. I've even worked with people on the independent films that I've worked on. Even like the producers and stuff admitted that most of the movies they watch, they pirate. And they're trying to make a living in this industry. So, I don't know. I guess I really can't be judgmental of anybody that pirates stuff. But I still can't do it. I still can't bring myself to do it. Just mentally, I can't get over that roadblock. Because I think if I'm not willing to spend money on the industry that I expect to one day make a living in, then how can I expect anyone else to pay for stuff? That's just me, though. UK one I have has horrible age ratings all over it that the US one does not have. Age ratings? I just subscribed to your brother right before this started. Hey, thank you. He's working on a new Rough Cuts. I hope he... I guess I won't say which one it is because I don't know, how he wants to do his channel or anything like that. But he is working on a new video. He has a pretty time-consuming job, though, so he doesn't really have a lot of time to work on videos. So yeah, the stuff that he uploads to his channel is really few and far between. But he's still doing schooling and stuff. Like he's actually studying to become a film preservationist. So he's taking classes online and looking for internships at film restoration companies and preservation companies. It's really cool. He actually is trying to get into that kind of work, restoring old films, preserving old films. It's really awesome. Which Truffaut movies would you recommend? I've rented The Soft Skin from my library. I haven't seen that one. But I love 400 Blows. That's all. Yeah, I guess that's the obvious one. Yeah. Oh, somebody else said 400 Blows. The Wild Child, I think, is a really underrated movie. That's a really underseen one that I think is really fascinating and really interesting, really involving. An unusual kind of story, based on a true story, actually, of a feral child that was discovered in France in, I'm not sure, 18th century, 19th century. But Truffaut plays this actual professor, psychologist that, was assigned to study this boy and see if he could be reintegrated into society, basically taught how to be a human being. It's really fascinating watching that story, the way it progresses, and the way Truffaut examines it, because he was obviously somebody who was very fascinated by childhood and the mindset of children. And so I guess it's something that has an obvious kind of appeal for him, but it's an unusual story of childhood, in that this kid is feral and basically like a wild animal. And so I guess it held an obvious fascination for him of examining how a kid like that would behave, how he would learn. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've seen it. Again, I'm just embarrassed when I can't really find something really wise and in-depth and insightful to say something about a movie. But I remember it being very fascinating. Truffaut, obviously had a sort of obsession with that story. You can sense his fascination in the telling of it, of just observing, how does the kid learn how to write? How does he learn how to communicate? And I love films about processes like that show you step by step how a thing is accomplished, especially when it comes to psychology. It sounds as if it's been canceled. Yeah, it seems to be stuck in development hell. I assume this is talking about Modern Ocean. If it were to be made, it could be an Alien 3 scenario. Carruth loses control, too many cooks in the kitchen. Oh my god. I really hope that doesn't happen. I really, really hope it doesn't happen. Said last week that you don't know who Mark Kermode is. I've heard of him, but I've never watched any of his stuff or read any of his stuff. He's the man interviewing Werner Herzog about Grizzly Man when he got shot. Interesting. I did not know that. Yeah, and somebody shared some of his videos with me. I think in the comments for the last stream. I'm not sure, but I need to watch some of his stuff. Have you seen The Fall of the Louse of Usher by Ken Russell? I saw the trailer and it looks crazy. I've only heard of that movie, but yeah, Ken Russell can always be relied upon to make some crazy, crazy shit. That was, I think, his last movie that he basically just shot like in his backyard and in his house. I've only heard of it. I've never actually seen like any trailers or anything. I've been wanting to see it though. Yeah, but I'm a fan of Ken Russell. Like Tommy, Altered States is a really good one. Litztomania. He just he was a pretty wild director, a pretty untamed imagination. His movies are always really fun. Oh, The Devils is another wild one. I think it's still banned in some parts of the world to this day, The Devils. I know it still has never gotten a release in the US. It's still a really tough movie to find. Are you a fan of Five Easy Pieces? Personally, I think it's a masterpiece. I am a fan of it. It's not one of my favorite movies of that era, because I have the company that produced that movie, BBS. They were the same company that did like Easy Rider and Last Picture Show and a bunch of other like really groundbreaking movies from that era. And I have the Criterion Collection box set that is like every movie that BBS ever produced. And Five Easy Pieces is not my favorite from that collection, but it is a really good one. Another like I guess what I was saying about With Nail and I, just a character piece, you know? Doesn't really have a plot or anything. It's just kind of let's spend some time with these characters. Let's examine these people and these lives and these personalities. You don't really see too many movies like that anymore, especially not movies from like a major studio. It's crazy to think that like movies like Five Easy Pieces, which today would be considered art house films, that was mainstream back in the 70s. It's always wild to think how much the industry has changed. You mentioned briefly that your brother has Punch Drunk Love Criterion Blu-ray. If you have a scanner, could you please scan the sleeve and send it to my email? Maybe, I guess. Oh, the UK sleeve is full of BBFC age ratings, which ruin the artwork. Oh, okay, I see. Maybe, I guess. Yeah, I guess I could do that. I think I have a scanner. Yeah, I think my printer does that. I guess maybe you could just like send me a Facebook message. My email isn't. Oh yeah, my email isn't working right now. I don't know what's wrong, but for some reason I can't log into my email, so I haven't gotten any email in like maybe not a week, but it's going on a week. I don't know what's wrong. I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah, trying to get back into my accounts. So I don't know if anybody's sending me any emails or stuff. I'm probably getting offers to like join Channel Awesome or something like that, and I'm just totally missing out on all these opportunities. With my luck, I'm sure that's what's happening. But yeah, I'm really hoping I can get back into my email soon. But yeah, I guess when I do, I could send you that. I've never gotten a request like that before. All right, I really should talk about Silence before I get more into this. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has seen Silence, Martin Scorsese's new movie. Oh, don't use Facebook myself. Oh, okay. That's your email. Let me just copy that real quick. Yeah, I'll let you know when I get my email back up, and I'll try and send that to you then. I really hope this isn't illegal. Okay, sorry, I just gotta copy this over. There we go. Okay. All right. So yeah, Martin Scorsese's Silence. This is his newest movie. One that I'm sure probably most of you know has been like a long-term passion project for him. Um, I think I read, he's been trying to get this movie made for like 25 years. I think, Sideways too? Okay. I just have the regular Blu ray of that one. Um, yeah, so I keep getting distracted by stuff. Okay, I'm just gonna try and get Silence out of the way since that's what I came in here trying to talk about. At least at first, once we get this out of the way, then yeah, I'll just focus on stuff in the chat. Um, but yeah, Scorsese. I was doing a little bit of reading about Silence before I started the stream, and yeah, it sounds like he first became interested in producing this movie back in like 1990. Distracting is fun. Yeah, it is. It is. It always makes these streams interesting. Trying to get whatever I have planned out. See, already I'm getting distracted, but yeah, that is part of the fun. Part of the fun of it. Please keep Silence spoiler free. Okay, I will try to do that. Yeah, I don't know. If everyone's seen it. But yeah, I've been getting suggestions for this one. It seems like a few people have seen it at least that watch these streams, and I've been getting some suggestions to check it out. It sounds like some people have really been liking it, and yeah, this is look at me. I gotta focus. But yeah, it seems like it's been getting a lot of really good reviews. I've heard a lot of good things about it. It unfortunately didn't do too well at the box office, which I guess is not really that big a deal. Movies, yeah, I guess we tend to associate quality with like money numbers a little too much now. So didn't do too well, but that's okay. I guess maybe people expected it to do better because religious movies seem to be doing really well right now with stuff like God's Not Dead and what's the other one? Heaven is for Real, stuff like that. They've been doing a lot of religious themed movies now that have been really successful, and I guess maybe with the companies that produce Silence or the people that were watching it, tracking it, probably expected it to do a lot better, but it actually did pretty poorly, which is unfortunate. Scorsese has been kind of on a winning streak lately. His last few movies have done really well, and Silence, I guess, I'm sure he doesn't mind. I'm sure it was a movie he didn't make for to make a lot of money. It was probably, like everything he does, it had a very personal connection for him. But yeah, I was reading that he first got the inspiration to do this back in like 1990, around the time he did Last Temptation of Christ. And of course, Scorsese is a man obsessed with theology, spirituality, with religion, with faith, with struggles of faith. It's been a consistent theme in his work for basically his entire career. Silence 10 out of 10, so it looks like it has some fans, and yeah, I will try to avoid spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it. But yeah, I was reading a little bit about the production history of it. Like, it was originally, it's been started and canceled and delayed so many times throughout the years. It was going to star Daniel Day-Lewis, and then it was going to star Benicio del Toro, and I think Gael Garcia Bernal was attached at one point, and yeah, then it was going to happen before Wolf of Wall Street, but then it got delayed again in order for Scorsese to do Wolf of Wall Street. So it's been one he's had on his plate for so long now, and he finally got it done. And I finally saw it, and well, I guess I had kind of a lukewarm reaction to it, maybe. Okay, I've seen Silence. I liked it for the most part. Didn't enjoy how dark it was, but I liked the message behind it that he was trying to get across. Okay, yeah. I guess I kind of felt similarly. It wasn't a movie that I disliked. It's a movie with a lot of obvious strengths to it. Obviously, since it's made by one of the greatest living directors, it's going to have strengths. But I don't know. I found myself not getting too invested in it, and at the end, it wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't. I wasn't particularly impacted by it. Um, it was maybe it was a different tone than I've ever seen Scorsese hit before. He's normally a director that is very energetic, very subjective. He's somebody that, as a storyteller, just has so much energy and passion and obsession and drive. You watch one of his movies, you immediately get hooked, you get pulled right in, you experience this story subjectively from the characters' points of view, and it's just breathless the way he pulls you through a story, even if it's like 3 hours long, like something like Casino. You just get pulled right through that movie and you totally lose track of the time. He's one of the greatest storytellers that the film medium has ever seen. But Silence sees him operating in a different mode. This is a much more solemn movie. This is a much more contemplative movie. This is a much more, I don't want to say detached, but it's a much more observational movie. You know, he doesn't do his usual thing of having his camera, staying with the characters constantly and constantly moving and constantly being a participant in the story. You watch something like Goodfellas, like the camera is constantly participating in the story, taking you through the scene. It's almost like you are in the scene with the characters. It's very subjective and very, what's the word? Electrifying. It pulls you in and it makes you very invested. And Silence takes a step back a little bit. There are a lot of moments of stillness, a lot of moments of silence, no pun intended. If that even is a pun, I don't think it is, anyway. But yeah, it sees him operating in a much more observational mode, a much more objective mode than I'm used to seeing him operate in. Yes, I agree. I don't really want to see it again, but I'm glad I watched it. Yeah. To me, I've heard some people say that they think it's one of his best movies, and I guess I can understand that. You can tell it is something very personal. It is something that he feels very deeply, but I don't think this was one where he really managed to communicate so well what he was feeling. I think he was just sort of feeling it and letting the story operate on its own. And I guess unless you share those personal connections that Scorsese obviously had as a Catholic himself, as somebody who struggled with religious doubt, with faith, with a relationship to God and his own religion, I guess unless you share those passions and obsessions and emotions, you might not really feel the same things Scorsese seems to be feeling in telling this story. I personally am an atheist. I don't really have so many religious struggles in my life anymore. I was raised in a very religious household, and so I was very religious for the first few years of my life, and as I've gotten older, I've gone through those struggles, and I've sort of let go of all of that, so I no longer really have those feelings or thoughts anymore. If I'd seen this movie maybe 10 years ago, I probably would have connected to it very, very deeply. But at this point in my life, I found that I didn't really connect to it so much. This is kind of something, I guess, personally I've moved past. But other people, yeah, obviously continue to struggle with these kinds of questions. Scorsese seems to be somebody who continues struggling with these things. Even into his 70s now, still continues that struggle. And I guess you can sense that when you watch the film. But I don't know... Just for me, I wasn't really able to connect with it so strongly as I was perhaps with a film like Last Temptation of Christ, where Scorsese really tries to take you into the mindset of Jesus Christ as a character in that movie. Obviously, the way he's interpreted was very controversial in that film. I won't really get into that. But the way he renders that character, his interpretation of Jesus Christ in Last Temptation of Christ, as a human being struggling with these responsibilities of being God incarnate, and the way that the human nature clashes with the godlike nature, the way that struggle and that drama and that conflict is rendered in that film was very investing and really pulled me in, because it felt like he was telling that story from a very specific, in-depth, subjective point of view. So even though I'm not religious, even though I don't really share those kinds of struggles, I could still really feel the emotions because he was taking me inside of it. Silence, by stepping outside of it and just kind of watching it, I didn't really feel it as strongly. Should I talk about the plot at all? I always forget to do that, and I'm always so bad at that. But yeah, I guess for anyone who's not familiar with it, it is based on a true story. It's also based on a novel by, unfortunately, an author whose name I can't remember, so I guess I'll just have to go right past that. But it is based on a true story of, is it Jesuit priests? God, I really should have done more reading. I apologize for my unprofessionalism. But it's based on a true story of priests who were trying to bring Christianity. This was in the 17th century, I believe it was. They tried to bring the teachings of Christianity to the country of Japan. And over the course of trying to spread the beliefs of Christianity, in Japan, Christianity was outlawed. These priests were captured, imprisoned, tortured, killed, and persecution of Christians began at this time in Japan. And the story basically revolves around a specific priest played by Liam Neeson, who sort of disappears. It's not really, nobody really knows what happened to him. If he was killed, if he vanished, if he gave up his beliefs and became a Japanese citizen. Nobody really knows what happened to him. So Adam Driver and Andrew Garfield play the two main characters. Andrew Garfield is sort of the protagonist in this, but they decide to travel to Japan at risk of capture, torture, death to try and find this priest and figure out what happened to him, and also at the same time to try and continue spreading their beliefs of Christianity. And over the course of the film, Andrew Garfield, who doesn't really start out as the protagonist, but gradually is isolated and becomes the central figure of the story, his faith is tested. He witnesses enormous suffering, persecution of Christians. His faith is challenged, and he goes through a crisis where he isn't sure what he really believes anymore, and he isn't really sure what the right thing to do is, morally, spiritually. He's racked with guilt. He's racked with conflict, struggle. He isn't sure what he believes or what he should do, what the right thing to do is in this situation. And it's a very harrowing film. It's filled with a number of very difficult to watch scenes. Like I said, it's very solemn. It has a very dark, I don't want to say depressing, because I hate when people describe movies as depressing. It has a very dark and a very, I guess I'll say, serious tone. Unlike other Scorsese films, where even if he's tackling a difficult subject, there's always, I guess because of his energy, because of his subjectivity, there's always a certain amount of entertainment to his films. And I don't say that in a way that... I'm trying to figure out how to properly articulate my thoughts here. When I say entertaining, I don't mean in like a simplistic way. I just mean that the films are engaging. And that in a way, even if you're watching something like Casino or Goodfellas, which is very violent and harsh in a lot of scenes, they're still in a way fun to watch because you're really pulled along and involved in the story. Whereas Silence, being more detached and objective, it can be a bit of a challenge at times because of the material, because of the seriousness, because of its darkness. And the running time I also found to be a bit of a challenge as well. I don't normally feel like the length of a Scorsese movie, and this film is about 2 hours and 40 minutes. Normally that's never a problem with me with a Scorsese film, but this one, Shusaku Endo wrote the novel. Thank you very much. Johnny Ray Broly. and I'm probably saying your name wrong too, I apologize, but thank you. Shusaku Endo is the writer of the novel. But I found myself really feeling the length of this movie, especially towards the end. In like the last 20, 30 minutes, I was essentially just waiting for the film to be over. It felt like it went on just a few beats too long, where it felt like it was winding down and winding down and winding down, and it felt like it just kind of kept going. The ending I thought was very powerful. The final shot I thought was very emotionally affecting and leaves you with a lot to think about and to mull over. But the movie itself felt long to me. It felt like it just went on a few beats too much. But that was my interpretation. So I guess there were things I really admired about it. The way it examines religious struggle and struggles with spirituality, trying to reconcile, I guess, the harshness of reality and the harshness of life, the pain and the suffering that one can experience, and trying to reconcile that with the belief that God is watching over all and that everything has a purpose, and that everything is part of, I guess, like this plan. But I'm trying to find a way to say this, because again, like I said, I am an atheist, and so I don't really share these beliefs that everything does have a point and a purpose. But I'm just trying to see the movie from Scorsese's point of view as a religious person, that there can be a conflict in what one believes, that God is love, God is watching over everything, God is sharing in a person's suffering, but then what this character experiences, this priest played by Andrew Garfield, he sees so much suffering and perceives just a silence from God, and he's trying to reconcile that. How can God allow these awful things to happen? Why do I not feel that God is with me, by my side, watching over all of this? Why do I feel like I am by myself? Why do I feel like I am on my own? So I guess it's about the struggle of how one holds on to one's faith in the face of the harshness of reality, which is an interesting story. And there are moments where I was very invested. I mean, there are sections of this movie that are very powerful and very involving. But overall, I guess I was left colder than I usually am by a Scorsese film. It didn't resonate with me as much as something like Bringing Out the Dead, which resonated very strongly with me, or what I feel are his strongest movies. This was one, it was better than Kundun. Kundun, I think, is probably his weakest movie that I've seen, and certain other movies that I didn't really get so invested in, like Age of Innocence, stuff like that. I wouldn't say this is one of his weakest films, but of the ones I've seen, this was one that I got kind of the least invested in. Not of all of them, but this was one of the weaker films for me. A lot of strengths, but I don't know if it's a movie that I would really want to watch a second time and really delve into it a lot more deeply. Okay, there's some other points of view here. Honestly, loved Silence so much. Easily favorite film I saw last year. Visually stunning contemplation about humanity. The cinematography was very, very good. I will definitely agree with that. It's a beautiful film, just photographically. Visually stunning contemplation about humanity, truth, and faith. It was a very powerful cinema experience for me. And I could definitely see people reacting to it in that way. But, interesting. Unfortunately, Scorsese cast Liam Neeson in Silence. I hate that man, but under Scorsese's direction, it might be all right. Okay. Not sure why you dislike Liam Neeson. I think he's a pretty good actor, but all right. I thought he was very good in Silence. And, I guess the parts that I found most fascinating were the theological discussions. Like when the Christian Andrew Garfield meets with the Buddhist character played by Tadanobu Asano, who's one of my favorite Japanese actors. It was really cool to see him in this. But like the discussions they have about about each other's religions, about each other's faiths, and how there's just a culture clash of how neither one is really capable of understanding each other. I thought that was a very fascinating exploration of faith and like the division that can come between faith, of just like, it seems like a lot of beliefs are shared by these two people, but there's just something there that is blocking them. And each one thinks that they are right, that they are the morally superior one. What I believe is correct, what you believe is wrong. And so I guess the scenes exploring that clash of faith and culture were the most fascinating to me. It was also really cool seeing Shinya Tsukamoto in this movie as well, who is one of my favorite Japanese directors. He directed the Tetsuo movies, Haruko the Goblin. He also recently directed a remake of Fires on the Plain that I really want to see, a World War II movie. The original was made in like the 50s, I think, by director Kon Ichikawa. It's a great, great movie. I think one of the best Japanese war films I've ever seen. Fires on the Plain. If you haven't seen that one, really check it out. And I haven't seen Shinya Tsukamoto's remake yet, but I've heard it's very good. And he's one of my favorite Japanese filmmakers, so I really hope that film finds its way to the U.S. soon. Kind of a side note there, but I just figured I'd mention it because Shinya Tsukamoto is actually really good in this movie. I haven't seen him do too much acting work outside of his own movies, but he was really good. I liked the emotional torture he made you go through and being essentially a participant. Interesting. When I watched it, I didn't really feel so much like a participant. It felt kind of like I was standing outside of it. Psychology of Faith is very honest. It shows what we are willing to sacrifice in the name of our faith, what consists ideas and thoughts that are not physical, and is sometimes the only thing that we have, and it's being tested brutally. Okay. Scorsese's After Hours is an underrated classic. Yeah, that was a good one. The debate about the relativity of truth within the film was very interesting to me, when the Japanese governor argues that Christianity may be truthful, but it holds no truth in Japan. But Andrew Garfield's character argues that truth is absolute and not relative to any one place, which is a perspective I'd personally agree with more. Have you seen the Japanese remake of Unforgiven? It's great in its own right and translates well to the Asian setting. I did not know that there was a Japanese remake of Unforgiven. I'll have to check that out. That's a great movie. That's one of my favorite Westerns. One of my favorite Clint Eastwood movies. Yeah, I think Unforgiven is great. I didn't know that there was a remake. I'll have to look that up. Yeah, so obviously there's some fascinating things in silence, and it does spark an interesting discussion. Truth is absolute, not relative to any one place. Yeah, I don't know if I just was able to really connect so much with the religious context of that, because it seemed to me that both of them were arguing, well, my version of truth is this faith, this belief. My version of truth is this faith, this belief. Yeah, I just don't know that I really agreed with that, but I guess if you can separate it from that specific context and wonder about the nature of truth, of absolute truth in life, I don't know. I don't know if that's something we can ever really know as human beings. It's probably, I believe, something that's always going to be beyond us. I think probably most every kind of truth is relative. I don't know that there necessarily is an absolute truth. If there is, I'd probably say that it's science and scientific learning. But I guess that's me. I always find that interesting. Samurai films are remade as American Westerns and vice versa. Yeah, it's really interesting seeing like what's happened with Akira Kurosawa's films, because every single one is basically inspired by American Westerns, which then in turn inspired more American Westerns. It's kind of funny, like the way certain countries, the way that their film industry sort of cannibalize each other. It seems like Japanese and American films especially tend to borrow each other a lot. You look at like how kaiju movies are becoming so big in the US right now. We're remaking Godzilla again. We're doing more stuff like that. I think there's another Godzilla movie coming out, and Kong is having crossovers with Godzilla. It's kind of interesting to watch. You praised the lobster in another video. The horrible animal cruelty right in the first scene is very off-putting. That's a real problem for me, and I could not watch beyond that. I understand that. I certainly understand that. That is one thing that, yeah, I also find difficult to accept in a movie. I don't think there was actual animal cruelty portrayed in that movie. I think it was simulated. I don't think they actually harmed any animals in the making of that film. I hope not. I certainly hope not. But yeah, when I see films that do portray genuine animal cruelty, or even simulated, if it's especially realistic, yeah, that's a tough thing to get over. I hate seeing animals harmed. I don't know, I guess you would think that, yeah, seeing a human being harmed would be worse, but I guess each of us knows instinctually when we watch a movie that no human beings are actually going to be killed or harmed in the making of this movie. So I think there's just a part of our brains that accepts, no matter how much we see somebody in danger or pain, or no matter how many people we see killed, we always know, that's fake. They're not actually doing that. Where I guess animals, we feel a bit more of that peril because we're always worrying, or at least I am, always worrying secretly in the back of my head, I really hope they didn't actually hurt that cat, or I really hope they didn't actually kill that dog, stuff like that. I'm always secretly fearful of that, and I'll tell myself, like, no, they wouldn't have actually done that. They clearly, they use makeup effects here, CGI here, but I'll always worry, what if they did? So yeah, I agree. That's kind of a tough thing to get over in films. But I guess each of us has different things that can really turn us off to a movie. I remember the critic Gene Siskel, he would always, because I watch a lot of Siskel and Ebert and stuff, he would always, whenever he'd see a movie with children in danger, that would be something that he just couldn't really accept. He couldn't really get over. He just didn't like seeing it and felt like it was a cheap way for films to try and artificially build drama. So emotionally, it seemed like he would tend to check out when he would watch a movie with a child in danger, unless he felt it was justified by the story. So yeah, I guess we each have different things that can sort of set us off and make us check out of a movie a little bit. I certainly have that. Yeah, I guess animal cruelty is one of those things. Violence against women is another thing that can be difficult for me. Like if I see, especially if I'm watching an older movie or something like that, and I see like a woman getting treated horribly or getting slapped in the face, that can be something that can make me check out of a movie emotionally and say like, all right, I'm not enjoying this. And I guess that's just a personal thing. I don't know if anyone else shares that, but yeah, that can have an effect on how you view a movie, the content that it portrays. So I can certainly understand that. Loved The Lobster, perfectly appealed to my sense of humor. Yes, it's very, very dark. I did like the movie, but I certainly understand, yeah, people that don't like it, because it is very, very dark, and I guess challenging would be the right word. But I love movies like that really push the envelope. Obviously, if they'd actually killed any animals, I wouldn't have liked that. That was also Dogtooth. I kind of had that problem too. There's a cat that is killed in Dogtooth that was just a little too convincing in that movie, and really kind of took me aback a little bit. But I guess given the tone of the movie and how confrontational and how dark the humor was, I could understand what it was trying to do. But still, yeah, I would prefer that no animals get harmed in the making of a movie. I don't think it's ever justified to actually hurt or kill a living thing in the name of a film. The Coen brothers seem to have a fetish for animal cruelty in their work. Oh Brother shooting cows and squeezing frogs to death, and it's a comedy. Yeah, I remember being taken aback by that as well. Yeah, when they gunned down a bunch of cows in that movie. I think that maybe had an effect on me watching that movie too. Yeah, I've never really liked that movie so much, and I think that probably has something to do with it. What are your thoughts on searching for philosophical value in films? I always find it to be a very fulfilling experience when I can find a theme or a question posed within a film that I can apply to myself and how I understand my own life. That's probably what I search for most in movies, is something that I can relate to on a very personal level in a philosophical way. I don't think you tend to find that too much in movies. I guess each of us has different life experiences, different ways of examining ourselves and our lives. So I guess movies that we connect to in a very deeply personal way, it tends to be different for each of us. And there aren't too many movies, I guess, that as individuals will really appeal to us specifically. But when you do find a movie like that, it can be an incredible experience, an extremely profound experience. I'm trying to think of... I know I had that experience the first time I saw Waking Life, because that movie's all about philosophy and examining the nature of reality, of perception, and the way we experience and find meaning in life. I saw that movie when I was, maybe 14, 15, when I was first starting to really contemplate a lot of those questions. And so I connected to it very, very deeply. And still, every time I watch it, I'm kind of sent back to that mindset of when I was younger and re-experiencing a lot of those same thoughts and emotions. So it's a movie I love going back to and re-watching pretty consistently, and it's still one of my favorite movies. But yeah, it's kind of hard to think of another movie that has that kind of impact. There really, I guess for each of us, there aren't too many. Going back to, I guess, like animal cruelty, the rape scene in El Topo was real, so were the dead rabbits. And yeah, I think he also, this is Alejandro Jodorowsky, his film El Topo. Yeah, there is some genuine animal cruelty in that movie. Yeah, they killed a bunch of rabbits for a certain scene. They actually killed some crows for a certain scene. And he has claimed in interviews that there's a rape scene in the movie. He's claimed that scene was real, but you don't actually see anything in the scene. I guess maybe he meant that, like, the scene leading up to it, where he kind of like attacks her and rips her clothes off, that was done for real, that he was actually beating her, which, yeah, is disturbing. But I guess, there are things in that movie that I don't approve of, but I still find the movie, just what it's going for in searching for spiritual transcendence. I don't agree with the methods that he used to accomplish that, but I guess I can understand what he was trying to go for. I don't agree with it, and I don't approve of it, and I would think that there is a certain line that you can't cross in what you do to try and make a movie. But Jodorowsky, I guess in those days, was pretty driven and pretty determined to reach beyond what I guess were considered the limits of film expression. And what he did was pretty amazing. But yeah, I guess... Yeah, there are parts that are difficult to watch for that reason. That, yeah, maybe he did go a little too far. And even if you listen to the audio commentaries, like on the DVDs and Blu-rays, he even looking back says, yeah, I probably went too far. I probably shouldn't have crossed that line. Probably should have held back a little bit. But, yeah, I guess mistakes are a part of life. Kim Watanabe is in The Asian Unforgiven, and the title is... Oh, God. Yuru Sarezaru Mono. There is a region-free UK Blu-ray, and it's beautiful. I'll write that down. Yuru Sarezaru Mono. God. I apologize to any Japanese speakers who might be watching. I'm just going to put Unforgiven remake, sorry. Yeah, I'll look it up, though. I'll see if I can find it. I'm a vegetarian, have been for 30 plus years now. Yeah, I'm mostly a vegetarian. I'll eat meat every now and again, but yeah, I tend to try and avoid it. Are you vegan? I find it funny when people who eat meat are offended by animal cruelty. Yeah, unfortunately, I do I try to eat it as little as possible, but yeah, I do eat meat, I guess. I try to be a vegetarian, I try to be a vegan, but I'm not always the best at it. I want to, if I can afford to, if one day, yeah, I can have the money to buy all vegetarian, all vegan stuff, I will. Unfortunately, I guess financially, I'm not at a point where I can really afford to be totally vegan yet. I want to be, though. I don't think of it as eating meat. I think of it as eating animals, and that's why I don't. Yeah. Yeah, I guess for me, I would never be able to actually kill an animal for food. I don't know. If society collapses, which maybe it will in the next couple of years, I'm really scared of that. I'll probably just die off fairly quickly. But yeah, I guess you never know when your back's against the wall and the survival instinct kicks in. I guess you never really know what you're capable of. But I guess me right now in a functioning society and civilization, I don't think I could ever actually kill an animal myself for food. So I guess I would just prefer not to eat meat. I guess if you are capable of doing that, if you're somebody who hunts, who, prepares your own meat and you can prepare the carcass and everything, then yeah, I guess you have a right to eat meat. But for me, yeah, I would never be able to do that, so I probably shouldn't be eating meat. I'm fine just eating vegetables and stuff, and fruit. I would prefer to eat just that if I could. But I mean, sometimes you gotta buy some cheap frozen dinner with some meat or something in it. Or beef ramen, stuff like that. Rape scenes in films I can't handle. I understand that. Yeah, I would prefer they weren't there as well. I think you should only be offended by animal cruelty in films if you're a vegan. Makes sense. It is kind of hypocritical, yeah. Coen brothers have also shot horses and dogs in their films. Unforgivable to me. Yeah, I can understand that too. Oh yeah, Michael Haneke's films have a lot of animal cruelty in them. Yeah, Benny's Video. It opens with actual footage of a pig being killed. God, and it plays it over and over again. I could not handle that. I had to turn away and just fast forward past that opening sequence in Benny's Video. That was too much for me. Same thing with the opening of Gaspar Noé's Carne, which opens with footage of a horse being slaughtered. God, I cannot handle that. Ugh. The director of Agent Unforgiven is Lee Sang-lee. That doesn't sound like a Japanese name. Lee Sang-lee. Okay. If the animal's going to be killed anyway, I don't think it's that bad. I guess so, yeah. I read about the making of Pink Flamingos, the John Waters movie. There's a chicken that is actually killed on screen in that movie. And John Waters talked about that. It was a chicken that they got from a butcher shop, so it was going to be killed for meat anyway. And they just killed it on camera for the movie, and it was cooked and it was eaten, so I guess if you're going to do it, that's probably the best way to do it. In a sense, yeah, the animal wasn't killed for no reason. It was used for food, which it was intended for. Still no fun to watch for me, though. Barbecue ribs are delicious. Yes, they are. Recently, have gotten into Terrence Malick's films. Haven't seen them all yet. Yeah, Malick's an interesting one. He makes the most visually astonishing films, but I've talked about this in previous streams. I guess I'm starting to feel like his movies are getting a little bit repetitive. He recently did an interview, which was crazy. He never does interviews. He did like a Q&A and an interview for his new film, Song to Song. And he's been saying that he's kind of... I didn't read all the interview, but like it sounded like he was kind of saying that he's... the direction that his films have been going, like really non-narrative and free-form and avant-garde and experimental, that he's kind of felt like he's gone as far as he can go in that direction, and he's going to start pulling back a little bit and exploring more structured filmmaking again, which honestly I was glad to hear. Yeah, I feel like he has maybe gone about as far as he can go. He's just kind of just where what it felt to me that Knight of Cups was sort of a repetition of To the Wonder, and it seems I haven't seen Song to Song, so I can't judge that one entirely fairly. But judging from the trailer, which is maybe unfair, but just judging from the trailer, it kind of feels like Song to Song is basically repeating Knight of Cups again and To the Wonder. So I think maybe he has perhaps gone as far as he can go in that direction, and that it's probably a good thing that he's going to explore another avenue of storytelling at this point. That's how I feel about it. But even Knight of Cups, which I didn't really enjoy, it does still have moments in it that that really sweep you away with their majesty, their visual majesty. He's an amazing filmmaker, and he does occasionally just achieve moments that, if you were to make a film in any other way, in a more structured way, just those beautiful little accidents that you occasionally see on screen in those movies, even in Knight of Cups, just blow you away. You would never be able to get that in any other kind of film made any other way. It's exactly the point. They don't have to be killed. There are alternatives. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Going back to animals, yeah. I don't think it's ever necessary to actually kill an animal. It's certainly something I would never do. Tree of Life was the first one I saw, and I had a strong reaction to it on an emotional level. Maybe the most visually beautiful film I've seen. That film is probably the culmination of that style that Terrence Malick has been refining over the last couple of years. Of just trying to get at pure, visceral, visual emotion. That Tree of Life, I think, is the purest expression of that. There's still a bit of a narrative, a bit of a structure, so it doesn't feel, I guess, just as meandering as I felt Knight of Cups was. It feels like there's a bit of a journey to it, a structure to it, but still loose and free form enough to feel like it's just moments that are happening before your eyes. It's an amazing film. And even though I've been lukewarm to the last couple Terrence Malick movies, yeah, Tree of Life is still one that I think about and remember, yeah, seeing that movie in theaters and how overwhelming certain moments were. Or like The Birth of the Universe, that whole sequence, set to the opera music. God, I remember weeping in the theater watching that. It was so beautiful. I guess I'm just desensitized to the most brutal things in film, unless there's some dark things behind it, like with El Topo or Last Tango. Yeah, Last Tango. Another one. Yeah. Which it seems people have just sort of forgotten about. Everyone was real angry for a little while, and then just sort of forgot about it. I guess that's the way internet outrage tends to work. But, yeah, that information that... Maria Schneider, the actress in Last Tango in Paris, during the rape scene, she wasn't told what was going to happen in that scene. Obviously, really crossing a line, just as far as directors and relationships to actors. Yeah, if you're going to do something like that, you absolutely cannot do it without one of the actors' consent. That is definitely crossing a line. And that information has been out there for a long time, and I don't know why people chose fairly recently to get upset about it. Oh, Lee Sang-il. Sorry. Going back to the Unforgiven remake. But yeah, obviously that's something in Last Tango in Paris that really influences certain people's reaction to it, understandably. That's still, I guess, there are things I admire in that movie, but yeah, anytime I watch it, it's just one of those scenes I skip over. Like the rape scene in Irreversible. I've seen Irreversible a couple times. I've only watched the rape scene once, and I don't think I'll ever watch it again. So every time I watch it, just skip right over it. Don't think I could handle it a second time. Or the total irony behind 2016's Birth of a Nation. Yeah, that's right. That was a movie I was hearing a lot about. I think it took like the top prize at Sundance or something like that. It was getting a lot of acclaim at the festivals. Then, yeah, the lawsuit that was brought against the director, Nate Parker, that he was accused of raping another student while he was in college. Yeah, that sort of killed the momentum that film was having. Understandably, yeah, that was very disturbing to read about. And it's a movie I want to see because, yeah, it was getting so much acclaim. But, yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a tough one to, like, put out of my head, yeah, what was revealed about the director. It can be difficult sometimes. It's like every time I rewatch Woody Allen's Manhattan, I just can't put his personal life out of my head when I watch that movie. It always comes off creepy. That Manhattan is no longer a movie I can just sit back and enjoy. Ever since I learned about Woody Allen's personal life, now it's just, it always creeps me out. So yeah, that can be a difficult thing to do sometimes. I've talked about this before, like trying to separate art from the artists, and sometimes you can. Like, there are other Woody Allen movies I've seen that don't feel like they're so close to reality that I can still enjoy. Like Annie Hall I can still enjoy, but Manhattan, just a little too close. So yeah, I don't know how I'll react to Birth of a Nation, but I guess we'll find out. That's going to be a difficult one. I think a filmmaker should be allowed to depict anything within a film as long as no one is harmed in real life, but audiences still have the freedom to describe it as tasteless if they see it to be. I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not always going to agree with what is portrayed in a film, but yeah, absolutely. I am against all forms of censorship. Whatever a director or filmmaker wants to portray, they should be allowed to portray it. Doesn't mean you have to watch it. That's the beauty of art. You can choose not to read a certain book, watch a certain movie. It's all up to you. You make the decision yourself as an individual. He lost me at To the Wonder. I still liked To the Wonder. Wasn't a big fan of it. Didn't like it as much, obviously, as Tree of Life, but I still thought there was maybe half of To the Wonder that was really good, and the other half that was kind of like, not really feeling it so much. The ratio's been, gradually switching the more Terrence Malick movies I watched. Like Tree of Life, there were maybe a few bits where I was sort of disinterested, but for the most part, it's just, wow, stunning. And then To the Wonder, maybe like half really good, half not feeling it so much. And then Knight of Cups was just mostly, I'm not into this. I don't get what it's about. I don't get what he's trying to say, with occasional moments that were like, okay, wow, that was a really beautiful shot, or that was a really amazing performance that actor gave, or that was a really incredible moment that really sticks in my mind. But for me, in Knight of Cups, those moments were few and far between. They're so influential and know that people are receptive to what they view, so there is a moral side to it too. I assume you're talking about movies? Oh, Coen Brothers. I think, yeah, you're talking about Coen Brothers. Yeah, Coen's, I guess Coen's for me are sort of like Quentin Tarantino. They're so good at what they do. They're such talented writers and directors, and they can have moments in their films of such shocking, unpredictable violence that I just find that I can't really trust them when I watch their movies. I don't want to get too invested in the story. I don't want to care too much about the characters, because I never know who's going to die in the most awful way. So I've never been able to fully embrace the Coens or Tarantino for that reason. I think Malick is better when there's more structure to his films. He's consistently great visually, absolutely, no question about that. But I think that even if a film's experimental, it's better for it to have some kind of focus. Days of Heaven is beautiful. Tree of Life was his peak. I'd say, yeah, I think maybe Tree of Life is like the full culmination of his career. That's like, I feel like that's the film he put the most into. Although I guess could be argued that a lot of his more recent films are getting very personal. I sort of get the sense, and I think I've heard hints that something like To the Wonder was based a lot on his personal experiences, and that, yeah, there's a lot of really autobiographical stuff in that one. But I don't know, just because of how loose and free form it is, and how it's not relying on dialogue and different forms of expression, you don't really get a sense of how personal it is. That maybe only Malick can really tell how personal it is. So, I don't know, I feel like there's advantages to the way that he's currently making movies, and there are disadvantages to it as well. To the Wonder is the only Malick film I got nothing out of. It was a follow-up that felt like self-parody, like Only God Forgives. Yeah, that Only God Forgives. What was going on with that one? Yeah, wasn't too big a fan of that one. Neon Demon was a bit of a comeback, though, to get slightly off track. To the Wonder was such a disappointment. Yeah, I thought Knight of Cups was the real disappointment. I don't know, though. That was me. Oh, what was I going to say about Malick, too? Sorry, I need to go back a little bit. Oh, yeah, films need to have some kind of focus. I tend to agree with that. I don't think necessarily that, yeah, films have to be exclusively about plot or story or development or character arc. I think it can't, like I said, a director I think, should be free to do whatever they want to do. And people as individuals choose how they react to it. But I guess personally, my own feelings on storytelling is that there should at least be something that the film is working towards. I feel like you can get away with a lot, going off on a lot of digressions and tangents and side stories and everything. You can digress a lot, but I feel like there should always be an end goal in mind. There should always be something that the movie is driving towards. To me, the best example of that is Apocalypse Now. To me, like, you look at that story in a metaphorical way, that to me is like the ideal story. You've got the setup at the beginning that this character is trying to find this mysterious figure, Colonel Kurtz. So that is the end goal. You've got the beginning, which is the protagonist getting their mission, getting their goal. And then you've got the goal at the end, Kurtz. And then the whole movie is just about going from that beginning to that goal, from the start to the finish. Kurtz is always at the end of that. And so you're free just on that journey. And the river acts as a metaphor too. You can get off the river on as many stops as you want, but as long as you get back on and you're always traveling down that river towards the end goal, you can get away with a lot. I tend to look at stories metaphorically like that. You need to have that goal and that river, stay on the river as much as you can, but you're kind of free to go off as much as you want. And Apocalypse Now is a movie that, yeah, goes off on a lot of tangents. You know, there's the Playboy bunnies, there's the bridge that is really surreal and psychedelic towards the end. There are all kinds of weird tangents and side plots going on in that movie that seem really out of tone when you look at them side by side. But the way they're sort of ethereally connected with that river journey makes them feel like they're all part of that whole. And for me, when I watch the movie, I never get bored because I feel like we're always building towards that final confrontation with Kurtz. There's always that end goal that we're working towards. So even when the movie's going off on digressions, I feel like we're still moving towards that final goal. Redux, I feel, kind of upsets that balance. It spends too much time off the boat, too much time off the river. I feel like you got to get back to the main point as soon as possible. That's the way I tend to view storytelling. Does Stalker have a US Criterion Blu-ray release? Not yet, but actually just yesterday, Criterion announced their latest editions. Stalker is coming to the Criterion Collection, which I'm very excited for. Yeah, it's coming out on Blu-ray, I don't know, in a couple months. But yeah, I really want to get that one, because I think the only way I've seen Stalker is on YouTube. I think Moss Film, is that what they're called? The Russian production company. They've uploaded I think, the entirety of Russian film history onto YouTube. And they have Stalker on there. And I did watch that one, but obviously YouTube is not the ideal way to watch an Andrei Tarkovsky movie. So I look forward to being able to view it on Blu-ray. Just announced for July, actually. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Master Barry. So yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out again. Because Tarkovsky is one of those ones. He creates a world that you have to be willing to step into. He doesn't really bring the film or the story to you. You kind of have to come to him. So for me, I've seen Solaris multiple times, and it can be a difficult one to watch, but I also saw it in a theater in a 35mm print on a giant screen, and it was amazing. It was hypnotic. There wasn't a moment where I wasn't totally engaged by it. And watching it at home, it's not quite the same experience. I still love the film, and I still enjoy watching it, but that best experience was just getting to be immersed in it. So I feel like Tarkovsky's one of those filmmakers. You just have to kind of cut everything else out and just be willing to just have that film. That becomes your entire world. But I guess that's always the ideal way to watch a movie, isn't it? I did not know this. Woody Allen. Yeah, Woody Allen didn't cast himself as an avenger of rape. Nate Parker did. Yikes. Did not know about that. Interesting. There's other non-ethical problems I have with that film. Thought about making a video of it. You should. I could share it. Thanks for letting me know. Now I'm going to sell my UK stalker. Have you seen Bowfinger? Recently rewatched it. The highway scene had me laughing so hard that it hurt my head. I saw it a long, long time ago when I was very young, and I don't really remember anything about it. So, unfortunately, I can't comment. I'll have to rewatch it. Do you like The Untouchables? I really love it, though there is a lot in it that is quite dated. Kevin Costner is not a strong lead, in my opinion. I sort of agree with that. Yeah, I've never thought Kevin Costner was the strongest actor. He's done some good movies, though. Who? Yeah, I love Costner in JFK. I think he's really good in that one. Untouchables. I don't think it's a great movie. I don't think it's one of Brian De Palma's best, but it has some great sequences in there. The shootout, obviously inspired by Battleship Potemkin with the carriage going down the steps. That's a pretty great set piece. And there are other little moments in it, certain shots, certain sequences, certain lines of dialogue. The script by David Mamet has a lot of great dialogue in it. It's a movie that has a lot of strengths. I don't think it's as good as, like, say, Scarface, which is really just a perfect melding of Oliver Stone's writing, Brian De Palma's direction, Al Pacino's performance. That movie really comes together with all of those elements to become something truly spectacular. I don't think The Untouchables quite achieves that, but it's a really good movie still. Sean Connery is terrific in it. It's got a lot of strengths. It's one I enjoy watching. Bowfinger has probably my favorite Eddie Murphy performances. That's right. He plays a dual role, doesn't he? I think, from what I remember, it's like he plays a guy that looks like a famous actor, and so they cast this guy who's a lookalike in this cheap movie that can't actually afford the actor. That's my vague memory of it. And like they've also got the actual actor in the movie, but he doesn't know he's in the movie. He thinks it's actually happening to him. That's actually a good concept for a comedy. I should rewatch that movie now. Bought the Asian Blu-ray for The Untouchables. It has uncompressed audio. No other release does. I wish I knew what uncompressed audio meant. I'm not exactly the most technically minded person, so yeah, a lot of technical stuff like that tends to go over my head. I understand a bit about like film formats and like analog stuff, but like digital stuff is still something I have difficulty wrapping my brain around. I love Brian De Palma. He makes the films that he wants to see, and if the audience likes them too, then that's a bonus. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Not in every case. I think De Palma is certainly somebody that's done quite a few movies just like for the exposure or the paycheck. But yeah, it doesn't mean he hasn't also done a lot of movies that are just kind of like based on his obsessions, based on his sensibilities, just the kinds of movies that he wants to see, like Blowout, which, talking about Blow Up earlier in the stream, that's kind of funny that those two came up. Yeah, Blowout is basically just a remake of Blow Up. And I guess some people make that argument that De Palma is really derivative as a filmmaker. Everything's based on something else, or tends to be. I can understand that, but I feel like he's one of those ones like Quentin Tarantino, where even if you don't really like what he does, he still, I think, adds enough of himself. You can see where the inspirations come from, and you can see, that he's borrowing from Hitchcock, he's borrowing from Battleship Potemkin, all these other places, but he's turning it into something that is specifically his. He's adding his own sensibility, his own style to it, and he's adding something more to it. So yeah, even though I'm not like the biggest Tarantino fan, I would still make the argument that he's not just ripping off other people. He's bringing his own style to it as well. Need to see more Tarkovsky. Only saw The Mirror and it was hypnotizing. Yeah, I find Tarkovsky to be a really challenging one. I never like his movies the first time I watch them, but the more I revisit them, the more I get out of them. So like The Mirror was one I only saw once. I didn't really enjoy it so much. And yeah, when I watched Stalker on YouTube, didn't really enjoy it so much. But I didn't really enjoy Solaris the first time I saw it. It took watching that one like 5 separate times before I finally really started to get into it. And now it's one of my favorite movies. So I don't know. Tarkovsky is a challenging one. He demands a lot of you as an audience member. A lot of patience, a lot of thought, a lot of contemplation. It can be challenging, but also very rewarding if you're willing to meet the challenge. I have a 12-foot widescreen for my home cinema, so Solaris or anything else for that matter, it's like being in the cinema. That sounds great. The one thing I want is I want a better sound system. I have a pretty good TV that basically my parents bought and then we're just getting rid of, so my brother and I took it. So we got a pretty good TV basically for free, but we don't really have a very good sound system. I would love to have that, like a really good immersive sound system. That would be... I can handle having a smaller screen, but like if you can have a really good sound system, it's like Danny Boyle says, sound is like, what did he say? I forget the exact number, but he said like 85% of the film experience is all in the sound, which seems high, but it might be pretty accurate. You can let a lot go in terms of like visual stuff. You can watch a movie shot on like 8mm on mini DV. You can forgive a lot in terms of the visuals, but if you don't have clear dialogue, if you don't have good sound mixing, that can ruin it. So yeah, sound is pretty damn important. Even though film is a visual medium, you've really got to pay very close attention to how you put the sound together. Not gonna lie, Kevin Costner is kind of my man crush. Hey, not gonna judge. I understand. Thoughts on Chantal Akerman. I'm revisiting her film Jeanne Delman for a class on feminism. I've seen a couple of her movies, a couple shorts. I did watch Jeanne Delman. I'm so sorry. I'm a dumb American. I am so bad with foreign languages. I really apologize. Yeah, I wasn't sure what I thought of it. Yeah, Jeanne Delman is obviously another one like Tarkovsky that is a very unusual movie and a very challenging one too. Very slow, very observational, very contemplative, and it goes on for like, 4 hours? It's an incredibly long movie. And yeah, unless you're willing to meet the movie on that level on its own terms and meet that challenge, it can be excruciating. And Yeah, I guess I wasn't up for the challenge at the time when I watched the movie. It's one I'm going to have to go back to because, yeah, she's one I'm always hearing about. And I did see a few movies that I thought were interesting. Like, I can't remember the name of it, but her first one, I think was in black and white. I cannot remember what it was called. I apologize. But I remember that having some really interesting stuff in it. So yeah, I think she's one that I'll probably need to revisit. And yeah, one like Tarkovsky, I'm just going to have to learn how to watch her movies. Because some directors are like that, like Jacques Tati. He's one that I really firmly believe he's so funny and so visionary and so brilliant, but you kind of have to learn how to watch one of his movies. First time I saw Playtime, I didn't get it. I didn't know what was going on. Second time I watched it, I thought it was brilliant. You just kind of have to learn how to watch certain movies by certain filmmakers because they're so far outside of what anyone else does. I think maybe Chantal Akerman is like that. I just didn't really get it the first time around. But maybe I'll discover it revisiting her stuff. What's your favorite Takashi Miike film? He is another one that I am not the biggest fan of. Like, I didn't really like Ishi the Killer. I didn't really like 13 Assassins. I didn't really like Audition. But he has done a few that I've liked. I think probably at this point, my favorite that I've seen was one called Deadly Outlaw Rekka. It was this bizarre Yakuza movie that was scored entirely with this incredible acid rock Japanese soundtrack. The album is called Satori, and it's by this amazing band called the Flower Travelin' Band. I love that album, and the way Takashi Miike uses it as the soundtrack for that movie I thought was great. And Deadly Outlaw Rekka has a lot of really crazy set pieces to it too. The whole opening sequence, the way it's cut together and scored, I really liked. So of the ones that I've seen, I think that's been my favorite so far. But Miike's done just an ungodly amount of movies. He does like 3 a year, I think. I don't know how he does it. So there's obviously a lot that I haven't seen. Watched the first hour of Stalker and loved it. Then I got distracted, patting myself on the back for getting Tarkovsky. 30 minutes later, I realized that I hadn't been paying attention. I have ADHD. Well, yeah, I've had that experience. Oh, with Antonioni, he was one that got brought up earlier in this stream. I've had that experience trying to watch Antonioni. I'll find my mind wandering, which is never a good sign. But again, some directors present that challenge, you know. Some movies bring everything to the audience, and that's okay. Some movies are, like Marvel stuff or, I don't know, like Transformers, movies like that, where they're making an effort to bring everything to you. Clearly explain all of the plot and all of the characters. This is what's going on. Let's make sure everybody can follow it. That's okay. That's one mode of making a movie, one way of telling a story. And then there's like the Antonioni or Tarkovsky or Chantal Akerman way, which is you ask the audience to do a lot more of the work. Not for everybody, but it's another way of telling a story, another way of making a movie. I'm not always up for the challenge, I have to admit, but when you're in the right mood, those movies can be great. I own all of Tarkovsky's films on Blu-ray. Ivan's Childhood, Solaris are Criterion's. All 5 others are Artificial Eye releases. I haven't heard of that company. Yeah, there's still a lot of Tarkovsky I want to see, like Andrei Rublev. I'm waiting for a good Blu-ray of that one, because that's one I'd like to try and sit down and watch. I think it's his longest movie. It's like 3.5 hours, 4 hours, and even for Tarkovsky, that's long. He kind of specialized in longer form storytelling, but I think Andrei Rublev was the longest he ever did. I'd like to get a good Blu-ray of that one and set aside a day where I can just sit down and watch the whole thing. I actually watched The Mirror twice in one day to really grasp it. That was the first time I got an impression from a rewatch. I think Tarkovsky's one of those ones. You just kind of... Yeah, you have to be. There's a challenge to meet, and yeah, it can be difficult to meet that challenge. But the more you can immerse yourself in it and put your mind like on his wavelength, the more you get out of it. Uncompressed audio is the raw audio, no compression, which is what also known as lossless, and lossy is DVD. Oh, okay. I guess I kind of grasp what is meant by that. It's kind of like going to the camera negative almost. Which is the crazy thing about like doing digital restorations and stuff. We're actually getting like on Blu-ray films in better quality than they were when they were new, because we're actually scanning the negative and making it into a digital transfer. We're not making a print, which is a copy of the original. We're getting the original. So they're in better quality today than they were when they were new, which is crazy. I read an interview with Terry Gilliam talking about that, because a lot of his movies tend to use a lot of kind of handmade, cobbled together special effects. And part of the way that he did that is he would rely on the loss of picture quality in making a print from the negative to hide a lot of like wires and obvious like seams in the sets and everything. He kind of relied upon that, and now that they're going back to the negative, a lot of those loose ends and everything are becoming very visible. So that's why he's chosen to use like digital techniques to erase certain things, because some people got upset at him for doing that. You know, it's kind of like Star Wars. Don't mess with it. Just leave it the way it was. All of the warts and everything, don't touch it. Just leave it pure and in its original form. And so in this interview, he was like having to explain, like, well, this was stuff I didn't intend you to see when I made the movie. You kind of have to go in and clean certain things up to get the proper effect. It's interesting just what digital technology has done to filmmaking now. It's changed so much. Even old films, certain things you weren't supposed to see, you're now seeing. And that's not part of what the film was supposed to be. Apocalypse Now was the first film to use 5.1 audio. Walter Murch was the sound editor. There's a special feature on the Blu-ray called Heard Any Good Movies Lately? Yeah, Walter Murch was really innovative in sound design. And yeah, it really took like a visionary like Francis Ford Coppola, who had such... You think about how ambitious that movie is visually. Like, he wanted these huge helicopter battles, all these huge explosions and battle scenes. That was such an ambitious movie just visually, what he wanted to put on screen. And then when he went into editing, it took him like 2 years to edit that movie and to go through post-production, because sound technology at the time just wasn't up to what he wanted. Like in that helicopter battle, he wanted the audience to be immersed in the sounds of battle and to hear helicopters going behind and to the sides and in front. So they had to invent a new sound format for that movie. It's incredible. I'm trying to think, like, if somebody were to do that today, like, how would you even do that? There's like stuff like 3D and like higher frame rates. I haven't heard of anybody trying to really boost sound technology anymore. But that was a huge thing of going like from stereo to 5.1 with one movie. Like, most theaters weren't even equipped to play that movie properly. It's amazing when you think about it. And yeah, I love reading about Walter Murch too. He's one of the few like real geniuses of film technology and film technique. Just the things he's done to progress sound mixing, sound editing. It's always amazing when you read about the stuff he did, like for THX and American Graffiti and Apocalypse Now and the other stuff he worked on. I've mentioned this before, but I was rewatching Jarhead not too long ago. He actually edited that movie and did all the sound design for it. And that's a great movie just in terms of sound design. Visually, it's great too, but God, Jarhead is such a good movie. I'd forgotten how good it was until I started rewatching it. But yeah, Walter Murch is great. I love reading interviews with him. He's such an incredibly intelligent guy. One of my favorite stories of Walter Murch too, I learned this in film school, of when they were teaching us sound design, of like how sometimes you have to get really creative to get a proper effect in the soundtrack. And they told a story about Walter Murch working on American Graffiti. They wanted to get a Doppler effect of like when a car drives by the camera. Because every car has a radio going and is listening to music in that movie. That whole movie is filled with wall-to-wall music. And they wanted a Doppler effect of sounding like a car is driving by the camera and you hear the music start quiet and then get louder and then fade out again. And they tried doing that just by like altering the volume, like having the song start quiet and then get loud and go quiet again. And it didn't quite sound right. It didn't sound authentic. So the solution that Walter Murch came up with was to set up a stationary microphone and then get a tape recorder playing the song and then run by the microphone physically to actually get a real Doppler effect going by a microphone. And that was the effect they used. It's just stuff like that, post-production stuff, you don't tend to hear too much about when you're like reading about movies and learning about movies. So I always tend to find those stories fascinating because I'm always thinking about like, okay, what about this angle in a film, or shooting it in this way, or thinking about editing in this way. I very rarely tend to think about like post-production stuff like that, but it's so essential to like building what the film is. Scarface is being remade again, this time with DiCaprio in the starring role. It's set in the 2000s too. That one's been in development for a while. I keep hearing that like it's going to star this person, it's going to be directed by this person, it's going to be set in this era or that era. I don't know. It's changing so much, which is never a good sign. Like somebody said earlier, it's going to be a case of too many cooks. They're firing way too many directors and writers. That doesn't look good. Yeah, that's kind of the frustrating thing with a lot of film studios now, is like everything's got to be a franchise. So it seems like studios are investing less and less in just a personal vision. You know, if you hire somebody, just let them do their version of the story, rather than saying like, okay, we're hiring you to do this committee thing that we've already predetermined. But I guess that's been a problem with Hollywood for a long time. I really like listening and watching your live streams. I thought I knew my films, but now I need to catch up on films I need to see, but I'm not going to be able to catch them all, but I'll try. Hey, me too. There's so much stuff I haven't seen. Don't feel self-conscious. You'll never see it all. But that's okay. You just do what you can. I like that The Game is your favorite David Fincher film. It was the one I liked the most. What can I say? Atmos audio is overhead audio. That's the latest trend. Interesting. I hadn't heard about that. I'll have to look that up. Atmos audio. Saute ma ville, Blow Up My Town, was the name of Ackerman's first film you were looking for. Oh, it was indeed in black and white and had Ackerman herself as the lead, going around and destroying a kitchen. Okay, then maybe I meant her first feature film. I think that was the one I saw. Sorry. Definitely more accessible than the 3-hour DL-Mint, but I do think all of her films are worth revisiting. Yeah, I'll definitely have to do that. Yeah, especially since Criterion Collection, too, is releasing a lot of her stuff on Blu-ray as well. I think Jeanne Delman just came out on Blu-ray not too long ago. I'll have to try and see it again. Terry Gilliam's audio commentary on 12 Monkeys is one of the best and most informative I've ever heard. He keeps talking even after the credits end. I love Terry Gilliam audio commentaries. To me, I guess I learned a lot from film school. But I would actually say I've learned more about films and filmmaking just from listening to audio commentaries. Not all of them are good, but if you can find a director who's really good at talking about their techniques, their methods, and their films, you can learn more than you'll ever learn from a film school. Terry Gilliam is definitely one of those. Steven Soderbergh, Oliver Stone. Who's another really good one? Oh, I had one. Oh, Werner Herzog. Robert Rodriguez, because he's very just like nuts and bolts, how you do this, how you do that, how you get things done. So Robert Rodriguez is very informative. Any one of his commentaries, is going to have a lot of valuable information for first-time filmmakers or low-budget filmmakers. And there's one other one. Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott is another great one. I can listen to, commentaries by those directors just over and over again. Guillermo del Toro is another great one. Yeah, there are a lot of great audio commentaries out there that can teach you either just as much or more than you'll pick up in a film school. I think the only way you can learn more about filmmaking is just by going out and doing it. Actually being on a set and seeing how it's done. That's really the final test. But yeah, if you don't have any films that you can get on the set of, then listen to some audio commentaries. That, I think, is the most informative thing. Even Game of Thrones, which is a TV show, has Atmos audio on the Blu-ray. Transformers 4 was the first Blu-ray to use Atmos. Well, I've never experienced that then. Paul Thomas Anderson does great commentaries. He does, but I think he's only done one. I think Boogie Nights is the only one he's done an audio commentary for. That's a bummer, too, because it's such a good commentary. I really wish he'd done more, like one on The Master, one on Punch Drunk Love, one on Magnolia. I'd love to hear his comments on those movies. For the new Scarface, it's not DiCaprio. That's old news. Diego Luna is currently signed on for the lead role, a Mexican immigrant, and it'll be set in modern Los Angeles. I don't know. I guess there's potential. I mean, certain aspects of Scarface haven't dated so well, like the soundtrack and certain just relics of that era maybe haven't dated so well, but I feel like the story and just the quality of the writing and the directing and the acting more than holds up. You kind of... I don't know. I feel like the overall impact of the movie is dictated more by how good, just its quality is as a film, rather than just certain aesthetic things that have dated it. I don't know. Maybe you could do something with it. I don't know. I'm not expecting much from a Scarface remake, though. I listened to PTA's commentary. He seems kind of cocky. I don't know. Maybe. I didn't get that impression. He seems very... I don't know. He seems kind of shy to me. Every, interview I've seen him in, it seems like... He always seems uncomfortable. He always kind of seems like he'd rather be somewhere else. You don't really see him make a lot of eye contact. That's the impression I get. Is just that he's not the most socially adept person, which I can certainly relate to. I'd probably be the same way. I thought that Diego Luna was cast as Manny in the Scarface remake. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Burt Reynolds doesn't want to work with him again. Yes, that is definitely true. Burt Reynolds did not like working on Boogie Nights. He's been vocal about that. Ooh. Okay, well. Looks like that's about all that's in the chat. Looks like we're kind of winding down now. Maybe we'll bring this stream to a close. Thank you all for joining me. Always fun to do these. I feel like I probably should have said more about Silence, but that's okay. Oh well, we can talk about it some other time. I guess I said pretty much everything I had to say. I don't know. But yeah, always enjoy doing these. Thank you so much for everyone hanging out. Interesting. DiCaprio was cast as Scarface. I didn't hear about that. After De Palma saw Wolf of Wall Street. Well, it'd basically be the same role then, wouldn't it? Yeah. Great stream. It was fun. Thank you. Yeah, I always enjoy doing these. Sorry, there's just more stuff being posted. Scarface is a franchise I actually love to see rebooted every decade. The first movie encapsulated everything the 80s represented. Imagine a Scarface for every decade with a new original vision. That's not a bad idea. I kind of felt the same way about, or similarly about Psycho. That like maybe that movie should just be remade shot for shot every 30 years. Because I sort of like Gus Van Sant's remake of how it's just the same movie but with different actors. I think that's kind of a cool idea. I think directors should take it upon themselves. Every 30 years we need to pick somebody to remake Psycho shot for shot exactly the same, just 30 years later. I think that'd be kind of a cool continuing art project. But yeah, that's a good suggestion. I mean, Scarface, yeah, is all about capitalism in the 80s, and capitalism has only gone more out of control in the decades since, so there is potentially stuff to explore there. But I kind of thought that about the new Wall Street. When Oliver Stone said he was going to do a second Wall Street based on the 2008 financial crisis, I remember thinking like, wow, there's a lot to explore there. And then the movie came out and it was just kind of like, I worry that Scarface is going to be the same thing, that just what the industry is today, it'll stifle too much, I guess, commentary that any director wants to put into it. It has a lot of pitfalls. If somebody could actually pull it off, it could potentially be very good, but I just don't think what's happening now is a very good sign, that they're just firing director after director, casting lead after lead, getting writer after writer. That's never a good sign. I just heard that Winding Refn is remaking Logan's Run. I didn't hear about that. I did hear he's remaking Maniac Cop, though, which will be weird. I don't know. Could be interesting, though. Imagine if someone like Edgar Wright took on a modern Scarface. Be crazy. I don't know if he's necessarily the right choice, but could be good. I don't know who would be the ideal choice. Nobody's really coming to mind. I'd have to think about that. All the possibilities and visions talented directors could offer. It seems like they've already offered it to just about everybody, and they've either turned it down or just been fired. It's had like 5 separate directors on it already, I think, and each one of them has just been fired or left the project. I don't think that's ever a good sign. Imagine if Pee Wee Herman played Scarface. Well, Paul Rubens is a pretty talented character actor. You might be able to do it. You should watch like the movie Blow. He was in that. And then the Todd Solondz movie, Life During Wartime. Compare those 2 performances and those 2 characters with Pee Wee Herman. You can see that guy actually has a lot of range as an actor. The Coen brothers would be perfect. Actually, I heard the Coen brothers are doing a rewrite on Scarface. Think No Country for Old Men. I think actually the Coen brothers are currently doing a rewrite on the Scarface remake. I might be wrong on that. It might be something else, but I'm pretty sure they are. And I don't know who the current director is, but I'm sure there's somebody out there. I'm just trying to think of somebody. No, that's a bad fit. Nobody's really coming to mind as like the ideal Scarface director. Yeah, I can't think of anybody. Maybe Spike Lee? I think he'd be an interesting one, but I don't think he's very likely to get offered the job, unfortunately. Scarface would need a director who glorifies violence. Well, De Palma is certainly operatic in his use of violence. Or even David Fincher. David Fincher's not bad. Henry's trying to end the stream and people keep commenting. Yeah, I get wrapped up in these conversations. All right, I guess we'll bring it to a close. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining the stream. I'll see you next time. I don't know if I have next Tuesday off. I'll have to find out what my work schedule is. So, no, it's fine. I don't mind. Prolonging the stream. But yeah, sometime next week we'll have the next stream, and hopefully I'll have some more movies to talk about. Hopefully everyone, has a good rest of the week. Subscribe, like the videos, leave your comments, all that stuff that helps the videos out. I would give a plug to the Patreon, but I think I'm actually going to at least shut the Patreon down temporarily, just because I feel like the channel's still not really at a place where I can really devote a ton of time to it. And so, I don't know, it just felt wrong to me to be taking people's money through Patreon when I'm still not really at a point when I can consistently deliver more content. So I guess I think for now it's probably better to not have a Patreon page. So I'll probably be closing that down before the end of the month, before everyone gets charged again. Still trying to figure it out. But yeah, that's kind of the plan right now. But yeah, thanks for everyone for supporting the channel, for joining the streams. Thanks a lot. So bad at this part. I'll see you next time. John Woo for Scarface? Not bad. All right. Bye-bye.